As we all well know, there are certain challenges to operating businesses remotely, right? And you think about those challenges mostly as being applicable to offices where everyone works together, right? But there are also challenges, according to our next guest, even if you have a global business where people work in many different offices and are no longer having the chance to come together. Stephen Altman is joining us now. He's an NYU adjunct assistant professor. He's joining us from New York. And Stephen, thank you for joining us. So this is a bit counterintuitive, right? You would think those people are far apart anyway, normally. So what are some of the challenges then that this pandemic and the inability to travel, what has that brought about?
Sure. Well, thanks very much for having me. So if we look across the different aspects of globalization that my team measures, so trade, capital, information, and people flows, by far it is the people flows that have been hit the hardest. So we're looking at somewhere on the order of 60 to 80% fewer people traveling abroad this year than last year. Now, of course, we think first about tourism because most people go abroad for leisure purposes, but around 13 or 15% of international travel is for business purposes. And business travel really is quite important economically and managerially. People are going abroad to do deals, to inspect products, to build relationships. And so we know that business travel facilitates both trade and international investment. And we also know that internally on global teams, business travel is an important ingredient for the effective functioning of teams. There are all kinds of fault lines along which global teams can break down in terms of nationalities, in terms of business functions, in terms of seniority, and so on. And when people are together in person, it helps to build relationships and foster focus on team goals. Without travel, physical distance can exacerbate the cultural and other kinds of divisions that exist on teams, leading to conflict and eroding performance, particularly at the kind of time when really companies really need their global teams to be performing at their best.
Adam, you just need to unmute.
Stephen, two words for you. Really and why? What evidence do we have that being in person actually is necessary as opposed to what we're doing right now?
Sure. Take an example, a very interesting research study that was done several years ago out in California. So they did an experiment where people interacted exclusively online, trying to do cooperative and competitive kinds of games. The participants in these experiments, which were done by a set of faculty over there in California, told half of the participants that they were interacting with someone who's also in California, half of them that the person with whom they're interacting with is off in Boston, so on the other side of the country. The people who thought that they were interacting online with somebody who was on the other side of the country were less cooperative, more likely to engage in deception and other kinds of things. So it seems that simply knowing that you're dealing with someone who's further away can erode the kind of cooperation and trust that's important to the effective functioning of global teams, and that interacting through technology mediated communication really doesn't fully replace the benefits of being together in person.
Yeah, Stephen, I kind of want to touch on that. Myself, I find it difficult to continue to have the same kind of, productivity when working from home as I would in person. I guess, how do you offset that then? How do you ensure that employees are still able to effectively communicate in times like this when we're all forced to work from home for, not all, but many of us?
Sure. I'd offer four recommendations for global teams, four kind of quick recommendations under the headings of technology, unity, inclusion, and reflection. So first, yes, technology, do go ahead, use all these wonderful new tools that we have, but just don't fall into the trap of thinking that interacting online is going to fully substitute for being together in person. Second, unity. Really try to focus as much as you can on those things that bring people together across the different kind of divides that exist on global teams. Third, inclusion. This is really a time for many reasons to amp up your focus on inclusion, but especially during this kind of time when there are people who will find it harder to express their perspectives or whose perspectives might be harder to hear. It's a time to really make sure that you're reaching out and encouraging all the different voices, regardless of where they're coming from. And finally, reflection. it's worth taking some time to encourage input and to reflect on the norms and processes for how global teams work. I know we're all extremely busy these days, but just a little bit of time for reflection can help to ideally prevent, but otherwise to help to resolve the kinds of problems that are likely to come up.
Yes, it's easy to become complacent in this bizarre new normal. Stephen Altman, thank you so much. He's an NYU adjunct assistant professor. Appreciate your insight.